The Champions League round of 16 is well and truly upon us, and the only way I think I can describe these games is absolute cinema. No matter where you looked, right? We can start with Liverpool traveling to Galatasaray and coming away with a 1-0 loss, which I think, on the basis of that performance, is quite fortunate. You can talk about, I don't know, Bayern going to Atalanta and absolutely thrashing them, cementing themselves further as potential Champions League winners when it's all said and done. You can talk about Newcastle almost narrowly coming away with a massive first leg 1-0 win until Lamine Yamal's penalty made sure it's all even heading into the next leg's game at the Camp Nou. But I think there's only really one place to start. You know you're finishing bottom half this season. I won't be there with you. You think we're mud brothers now? We're not! You see that trophy I took out from you last season? I've risen above you. Sometimes all you have to do is just wait. Sometimes there's no point in getting angry in the moment. There's no point in getting red in the face and trying to, go back and forth. There's no point sometimes. Sometimes it's better to just sit back and observe and let everything play out. Has a video ever aged worse than Fuad, Abdullahi, Abdulrazik, Saeed, Kadani? Has a video ever aged worse than that video? Why argue when you can just wait? Atletico Madrid 5, Tottenham 2. And honestly, it could have been so much more. This game was a bloodbath, but it could have been even worse. Honestly, 5-2 actually favors Spurs. It makes it feel like it was back and forth. This game was anything but back and forth. After 17 minutes, guys, it was 3-0. Igor Tudor, we're going to talk about you, but Igor Tudor has been able to avoid Premier League for once and focus on the European stage. This is what he's familiar with, right? Continental football. This is why he's been brought in. Atletico Madrid. Not an easy tie whatsoever, but Spurs have been decent in Europe this season. They've actually been much better in Europe than they are in the Premier League, so maybe this is the game where Spurs rise to the level of the opposition. Oh my goodness, man. This was a championship performance from a team that are months away from playing in the championship. Let's just call it what it is. Igor Tudor made the brave decision today of dropping Vicario after numerous mistakes from the Italian and bringing in young Kinski. And that was a decision that was applauded by some fans, questioned by others. But I don't think anybody, even his biggest critics, could have genuinely expected that after 17 minutes, Kinski would have been at fault for nearly every one of the goals and hooked off the pitch after 17 minutes just for Vicario to take his place again. 17 minutes. I feel bad for the kid. I genuinely do. Not because, look, he's unlucky, he played a terrible performance. That is up there, or rather down there, with the worst performances from any player in the history of the Champions League. 17 minutes, 3 goals conceded, and you have your fingerprints at the scene of the crime for nearly every one of them. And then you get hooked. Yeah, I don't know how you recover from that, because you know what it is? Players have howlers all the time. Players have bad performances. But there's 2 positions, in my opinion, that are so heavily impacted by your mentality. I truly believe that. And that's goalkeeper and striker, because you are really judged on the fine margins. You're judged on your moments. Midfielders, you can lose the ball 10 times in a game. As long as you complete the other 80 passes or whatever, you're good to go, right? I mean, defenders, I guess, in some way, and wingers as well, too. Wingers, if your cross doesn't find a target inside the box 4 times, if the 5th one does, you're good. But strikers and goalkeepers are specifically judged on their individual moments. Strikers judged on how they put the ball in the back of the net. Goalkeepers judged on how they keep them out. And in a situation like this, Kinski will be so mentally destroyed from that moment. And you could already see it when he walked off the pitch, followed by two coaches. Tudor wouldn't even look him in the eyes. You can see that's the kind of performance that is going to live with him long in the memory. That is not going to go away from him for a very long time. We all remember Loris Karius, right? Concussion or not, he never recovered from that Champions League final. Ever. Whether you thought he was good or not before, that performance was the nail in the coffin for his career at the top level. I hope for Kinski's sake it isn't for him as well. But I'm sorry. I feel like I've seen this story before. That is tough as a goalkeeper to overcome, because I think those mistakes will always be in the back of his head now. But this isn't just about Kinski, because as bad as he was, and he was bad, Spurs today, from top to bottom, absolutely pathetic. There was so much talk going into this game that maybe Spurs could upset Atletico Madrid and you know, they're struggling in the Prem, but maybe being able to play against bigger opposition will see some of these players raise their level because some of them are trying to be on the shop window in a few months. But this is the problem with Spurs, and it's what I said a few weeks back after they lost to Arsenal. Spurs' biggest issue is they genuinely believe they're too good to be in a relegation fight. Tonight proved they are not. It's not a case of, oh, you know, I don't know, they can't get up, they can't get motivated for the likes of Leeds and Burnley and those teams. It's not a question of that. They are just bad players. It's a bad team that have been given some kind of juice because of that clown Ruben Amorim last season. If it wasn't for Ruben Amorim, they wouldn't be in the Champions League. They wouldn't have a European trophy in their locker. And we would be speaking Spurs a lot more honestly all season long than we have been. Amorim has given these players careers. Don't get it twisted. But this isn't about Amorim. It's about Spurs. But the reality is tonight they had a huge opportunity against Spurs, if they do want to put themselves on the shop market, to prove that they have quality amongst a really bad situation. But they showed exactly what they are. A bunch of bang average to lousy players languishing near the foot of the table for a reason. Atletico Madrid made easy work out of them today. Easy work. And every one of these so-called great players was exposed today. Van de Ven, another terrible performance. Another moment where he is just left on the floor looking up as a player scores past his team. How many times now are we going to talk about Mickey Van de Ven and his recovery pace and what he's done in the past few years? He is having a season straight from hell. Every single game, there is a mistake directly coinciding from him. Christian Romero, poor. Porro, poor. Richarlison, poor. All of them absolutely miles off it. And Atletico Madrid smelled blood from the word go. They absolutely thrashed them. And Atletico, man, they're starting to really come together at the right point of the season. They did similar last year, right, where they hit a really nice bit of form midway through the year. They weren't able to sustain it till the end, but they really hit form at a nice point last season, around January-ish times, if I remember correctly. I think they went a certain amount of games unbeaten, but the last 5 or 6 games, especially since they signed Lookman, who had a fantastic game today, Atletico Madrid are really elevating. They're really going up in levels. And today, they took everything out on a sorry Spurs team. They were fantastic. They could have scored 6 or 7 goals today, and they are firmly in the next round. I don't care how many away goals don't even count, but I don't care how many goals Spurs scored today. That scoreline does not represent the performance that both sides put on today. Atletico Madrid, I'll tell you what, they're a real threat to go far in this competition because already their side of the bracket isn't the most complicated. They are potentially playing Newcastle or Barcelona, and we'll talk about that in a second, right? But if I'm Atletico Madrid, the way I'm playing at the moment, I'm confident that I can cause problems for anybody. This is starting to feel like the Atletico of old that no one wants to play. And I think over the last few years, teams have severely gone away from that kind of mentality. But right now, the way Atletico Madrid are attacking, the intensity that they're playing with, the clinicalness that they have in front of goal. How about Griezmann today? Fantastic. I know he scored his goal today. It wasn't like the greatest goal of all time, but Griezmann today, rolling back the years. This is a guy that was linked to Orlando a few months ago. People were saying he's done it at this level. Griezmann rolled back the years tonight. Insane, honestly. Atletico, I don't have enough words to describe how good they were today. And I really want to give them credit because as bad as Spurs are, a team still has to go and take care of business the way they did. And Atletico, 5-star, 5 goals, 5-star performance. And I fully expect them to see in the quarterfinals. Fully. Spurs, man. Oh my God. Oh my God. How any European team that lost to Spurs in the group phase should be ashamed of themselves. The fact that they qualified automatically as a top 8 team is an embarrassment to a lot of teams in Europe. That should never be happening based on the way they're playing this season. But enough said about them. Fouad Kadani. Yo, start learning Wycombe Wanderers. Start learning Stoke City. Start learning Huddersfield. Start learning who else is in the championship these days. Well, Coventry, they're coming up, so don't even bother learning them. That's your opposition next year. You remember that girl that said Brighton, Fulham, and them, man? You got to start learning. I don't even know. Let me see the championship table real quick. Who's your future ops? Every day beefing with Sharky and Ilyas on SDS. Forget about them, bro. Damn, bro. We're talking Watford, Bristol City, Preston, Charlton, Wrexham. Start learning Wrexham, Fouad Kadani. Talking about I've risen above you. This is the only top half of the table you're going to be seeing from now on, brother. It's dark, man. It's really, really, really dark. That is I cannot believe where Spurs are. And by the way, I need to say this, right, before I move on to the next game. Igor Tudor should not see another game for Spurs as their manager. He should be fired tonight. And some people might think that's crazy to say. It's only been 4 games. Guys, 4 games is enough. I don't think people are properly understanding the dilemma Spurs are in at the moment. This isn't a situation where they're languishing in mid-table and they're trying to recover and finish in European spots. This isn't a season where they're in 5th place and they really want to make that jump over. This isn't even a season where they're like 14th and they want to just get into the top half like last year. Guys, Spurs are in a relegation dogfight. So why on earth did they hire a manager that first and foremost doesn't know anything about the Premier League, but also has never coached in recent times at the foot of the table? This is the kind of coach that you bring if you're Juve trying to get into the Champions League spots. This is the kind of coach that you bring if you're Marseille trying to really cement something in France near the top of the table. This isn't a coach you bring, though, if you're in a dogfight near the foot of the table with West Ham, Nottingham Forest, Wolves, Burnley, Crystal Palace, Leeds. I'm sorry. This might sound so, I don't even know, cliche. Spurs are in a situation where the kinds of managers that can save them are the ones that no one wants to hear about. But it's the truth. You're talking about, I mean, funnily enough, Nuno Espirito Santo. They sacked him a few years ago because they thought they were above him. Now look, they're competing with him at the foot of the table. I'm talking about the likes of Sam Allardyce. I'm talking about bringing Tony Pulis out of retirement. I'm talking about ringing up big Harry Redknapp. Honestly, it's been a minute. Uncle Harry. I know he got them Champions League football his first time around. He needs to save the club his second. These are the kinds of managers Spurs need to swallow their pride and go to. They need relegation experts. And even if they're too far back, who else can they go and hire? They need that caliber of manager. That's the only thing that can save them at this point. Stop looking at these continental managers. Stop looking at these guys that have decent pedigree in Europe, outside of Europe. Stop. You're not there anymore. That's not where you shop anymore. That's not where you eat anymore. That's not the same table that you feast at. Right now, the objective is simple. Forget about the Champions League. Forget about the second leg. The second leg, they should go put Kinski back in goal. Honestly, go line up with your third team. Premier League survival is the objective now. Prioritize the Premier League and go bring in someone who knows this league. Otherwise, guys, this team is not too good to go down. This club is not too big to go down. It's not a laughing matter anymore. This isn't a joke anymore. This is dark. This is alarm bells need to be ringing at the moment. Igor Tudor cannot be allowed to coach another game for this team. And tonight isn't even necessarily all his fault. But after 4 games, they've lost all 4 games. They've lost the Palace at home. They've lost the Fulham away. They got destroyed by Arsenal. And they've been humiliated by Atletico Madrid. Very clearly, he isn't going to be able to turn things around quickly. But that's what they need. They don't have time. 10 games, Tudor starts clicking. They need it now. Get him out. Get him out. It's not necessarily his fault. This is a tough job. But get him out. They look worse than they did on Thomas Frank, for God's sake. Come on. That's enough about Spurs, man. That's enough about Spurs. Let's go to Barcelona. Barca, you want to talk about bad? Horrible tonight. Absolutely horrible. For all the praise I've been showering onto Barca since that humiliating defeat in the first leg at Atletico Madrid, where I think they've gotten better and better since that game. Today, oh my God, they got absolutely packed in by Newcastle. Newcastle, from the word go, played with such a relentless intensity to their game. Press the man-to-man. Honestly, I don't think Barca see that too often, but they press the man-to-man, especially in midfield. And from the word go, Barcelona were drowning under Newcastle's press. It was a sight to see, to be honest with you, because usually with Barcelona, you'll either see them, A, absolutely dominate games and beat you for 4 or 5, or B, for the most part, control the game on the ball, but then out of possession, just get blitzed on the counterattack. That's usually the 2 kinds of performances I feel you get from Barcelona. This game, not only did they get blitzed on the counterattack, they had 0 control of the game whatsoever. They couldn't even get on the ball and connect 5 passes in a row, which for Barca is just so rare. You look at the likes of Pedri and Bernal playing today. You look at the front 3 of Yamal, Lewandowski, and Rafinha, who last season were so good and finally got the chance to play again today because they haven't played as a trio all that often this year. And you just thought that, yeah, Newcastle will pose a threat in behind, similar to how the game went in the first game in the group phase, right? Barca had the ball, Newcastle had the chances, Barca won 2-0, or 2-1 rather. But this game, Barca genuinely could not get themselves into it whatsoever. And if it wasn't for John Garcia, I think this game could have been out of sight, out of mind for Newcastle. I want to give a big shout out to Tonali and Joelinton, who, I mean, these are just the ultimate bodyguards in midfield. Yo, you cannot run a game without checking by them first. Trust me, as a United fan, I know that. Tonali and Joelinton, even with 10 men last week, packed us in terms of intensity, in terms of physicality. This is as big as it gets in terms of Premier League football. They are just, wow, grown men, and Barcelona just could not cope with the 2 of them today. Fantastic performances. Tonali really just showing that this is the level he belongs at. I don't think he's going to stay past Newcastle past this season, and I think rightfully so. This is a guy that should be playing Champions League football every single year. But even past that, I want to give a big shout out to Lewis Hall, who locked up who I consider the best player in the world, Lamine Yamal. Yamal could not get his game off today whatsoever. He tried and he tried and he tried, but nothing he tried worked off. And a lot of that is down to his own bad performance, which I'm not going to just take away from him. But also, Lewis Hall today, already considered one of the best fullbacks in the Premier League. That is without question. In my opinion, should be starting at the World Cup at left back for England, depending on who the left winger is. But today, this is really one of those games where you affirm yourself as one of the best fullbacks in Europe. You honestly do. That kind of performance against Yamal is no joke. And we know what Lewis Hall offers you on the overlap. We know what he offers you in terms of crossing the ball in possession. But defensively, this was the biggest test of his career so far. And he passed it with absolutely flying colors. But unfortunately for Newcastle, they just could not find that opener until the very last minutes of the game, where a fantastic cross from Jacob Murphy, who I think came on for Elanga, but regardless, Elanga today, when we're talking about missed opportunities for Newcastle, how many times did Elanga get the ball in front of goal with a man in front of him? Just honestly, the last pass begging to be put away, and he failed to do it so many times. It kind of just sums up his season this year. Elanga made that big money move, but just hasn't been able to get it going like he did at Forest. But Jacob Murphy came on, and that's the difference in quality. That absolute peach of a ball from the right-hand side that Jacob Murphy has just trademarked over the last year or so. Fantastic into the path of Harvey Barnes, and it is the easiest finish in the world for Barnes at the back post to give what I thought, first and foremost, was a deserved lead by Newcastle. They fully deserved that, but also what I thought was going to be the winner. I thought that was it. Last minute goal, 1-0 to Newcastle, back to the Camp Nou in a week. Let's see what you got there. But unfortunately for them, one moment, one lapse of concentration from them, and one moment of brilliance from Barca has, unfortunately for them, and I think luckily for Barca, made this all square. And now, going to the Camp Nou, it's all to play for. Cancelo, who was one of the few players I think today that was actually decent, at least on the ball, right? Cuts in, gets his team up the pitch, plays it into, I think it was Rafinha. And Rafinha plays a fantastic pass into the feet of Dani Olmo. And Dani Olmo is one of the strangest players in football. This guy's a number 10. He's an attacking midfielder who, outside of the box, genuinely sometimes looks like he's tripping over his own feet. I think he's a good player. But outside of the box, sometimes you're wondering about Dani Olmo. I've said numerous times, I think Firmino has to be the starter at that number 10 position. But one thing about Dani Olmo, the minute this guy steps into the penalty box, it's a different player. I genuinely think he steps into the penalty box, and outside, it's Daniel Olms. He comes into the box, Dani Olmo. It's a different guy. It's a different player. He just comes alive. And I've seen it numerous times where he does like these croquetas, or he does these Cruyff turns, or he does these pirouettes. When he gets inside the box, no matter how tightly congested it is, he just thrives. That footwork that he shows to win the penalty for Barcelona is fantastic. It's fantastic. Some can say it's clumsy from Newcastle, but I think that's just brilliant play from Dani Olmo. The way he maneuvers his way through that little feint to go to the right, I think it's brilliant. It's vintage Dani Olmo, and it gave Barca a huge opportunity, which Lamine Yamal stepped up in front of however many Jordis, yelling, jeering at him, and calmly finished past Ramsdale, who didn't have much to do all game, to, like I said, give Barca a huge draw to take back home next week. But, man, they're going to have to be better. Not only next week, but even if they get past next week. Guys, I'm just worried for this team, man. I'm worried for this team. We talk about the firepower they have. We talk about the world-class players they have. But when you're so capable of playing like this on such a regular occurrence against top teams, what hope do you really have long-term? I think they're going to get past Newcastle next week. They play Atletico Madrid after. 2 more legs against Atletico. We know how much of a bloodbath that's going to be. Then even if you escape that, you got potentially Arsenal waiting for you. I'm sorry, man. I would love to see Barca do well in the Champions League just because I like so many of their players. And I think they play a good brand of football. I really do. But I just don't see how this way of playing is conducive to winning the Champions League. The league, I think they can do it, especially because Real Madrid this season have their own issues. But the Champions League, man, I just don't see it for Barca this year. I really hope I'm wrong. I would love nothing more than to be proven wrong by Hansi Flick. But I just don't see it this year, honestly. And my biggest fear for them is that the game that eliminates them has the potential to be an absolute pasting. I think better teams than Newcastle today absolutely put Barcelona to the sword. But what matters is the result. 1-1, all to play for at the Camp Nou. Barca, the only way is up because that performance is as bad as it gets. Big shout out to Bayern Munich as well too. I had them on the distance. Maybe the game I paid attention to the least just because of how out of hand it got so quickly. But Bayern, I think the big talking point for them is no Harry Kane, no problem. This is not Spurs where when Kane's not playing, you often wonder where a goal is coming from. Despite them making the Champions League final without him, we know, but for the most part, right? This Bayern Munich team proved today that as elite as Harry Kane is, and as big of a Ballon d'Or contender as he is, this is not a team that lives and dies by their number 9. Nicholas Jackson came in today, grabbed 2 goals, was instrumental in some of the play for Bayern as well too. Diaz coming alive. Michael Olise. Oh my goodness gracious. What? Olise, man. I mean, I continue saying it about him. How easily he's taken to life at this level should not be sniffed at, right? Because if you look at his former teammate Enabere Eze, very clearly he has not found as easy a transition going from Palace to an elite European side. It's been tough for him, despite having flashes. Olise made the transition from Crystal Palace to Bayern Munich, and genuinely, it seemed seamless. It seemed like he's been playing at this level his entire life. That is not an easy thing to do. He might make it look easy, but by no stretch of the imagination is that easy. He is undoubtedly a Class A, Class S, world-class, bona fide elite footballer. And the second goal that he scored today, this is what I think Bayern fans wanted from Leroy Sané when they first signed him. I think that's where they thought, oh, we're going to sign a left-footed player that can play on the right and cut in and be what Arjen Robben was for us so many years. And Sané just couldn't do it, whether it was through form or injury or both. He just wasn't able to provide that. But Olise is the Arjen Robben replacement that Bayern Munich have been crying out for since the Dutchman left the club. Today, the goals, the dribbling, the link-up, the creativity, the passing, the full display, the full array of tricks and flicks that as a winger at the elite level you want to see, it was on full display today. Olise is just an absolute joy to watch. What a season he's having. What a season Bayern are having. And man, if you weren't worried about them before, if I'm a City or Real Madrid fan, I am absolutely bricking it because this is what's waiting for us. Ha! That's without Harry Kane. Ha! It's dark, man. And then you see Jamal Musiala coming onto the pitch. Bayern are just going from strength to strength, man. They are just going from strength to strength. I know Atalanta's not a great team. Already, the way they beat Dortmund, they had to come from behind. And I know they're having one of their worst league seasons in a while now, right? They haven't moved on from Gasperini well whatsoever. But 6-0 away from home. This reminds me, guys, of the Bayern I grew up watching in the early 2010s, where it's almost a guarantee round of 16 quarterfinal, no matter who they're playing, because usually they play a Porto or they play a Croatian team, or they'll play someone, right? Roma, and they will just absolutely beat the brakes off them. Now, when they go and play Madrid and Barca, it's a different story, right? But this caliber of team, these B tier, dare I even say maybe even C tier sides, the Bayern I grew up on absolutely beat the brakes off them. Last 2 years, they've gotten away from that, right? I'll never forget when they lost to Villarreal in the quarterfinals with Nagelsmann. That was the first red flag for me that things are really bad at Bayern. For them to lose to Villarreal, as good as Unai Emery's side was, the old Bayern would never do that. This feels like the old Bayern, where they have this ruthless streak to them. They can score 5 or 6 goals in their sleep. Going forward, the attacking patterns that they play, the rotations that they have in and out of possession, how fluid they are, how efficient they are. It's an absolute joke, man. Right now, they are one of the 2 best teams in Europe, in my opinion. They have been all season. And I think when you're talking about big contenders for this trophy, today is just another stamp of approval from me that, yeah, they are the real deal. They are the real deal. And then finally, Liverpool. I predicted Galatasaray to win this game 3-1. And my entire Instagram page is just people saying 3-1. Show Liverpool some respect. Show Liverpool some respect. Look, I respect Liverpool, the institution. It's one of the biggest clubs in the history of football. It's arguably a top 3, top 4 club in the world. 6 Champions Leagues in Europe. We know they are monsters, Goliaths. But have we all been watching the same Liverpool team this year? Have we all been watching the same team that have the same obvious glaring flaws? Have we seen the team that at times look like they've never played together? This was just the Liverpool of the season. Honestly, nothing we saw today is any different than what we've seen this season. I thought it was going to be 3-1. I hold my hands up. It wasn't. It was only 1-0. But personally, I think that's generous. I genuinely think that's a generous scoreline. Now, did Liverpool have chances? Yes, they did. Ekitike. Big chance, brother. Big chance. I'm a fan of Ekitike. I'm a big fan of Ekitike, but if you're an elite center forward, you finish that chance 10 out of 10 times. That was a big moment in the game for Liverpool, where a goal there gets them back into the tie, and all of a sudden now, Liverpool have the upper hand. Liverpool have the momentum. For you to snatch at that chance the way you did, that you got to do better there. But this is not about Ekitike today, because across the pitch, bar Mamarashvili today, who really stood tall to keep Liverpool in this game. Outside of him, every one of those Liverpool players today, unacceptable performances. Unacceptable. Starting from the back, Konate and Van Dijk. I mean, Konate in particular, man. Wow. I thought we were kind of moving away from this bad run of form that he's been on earlier in the season. I thought we had firmly put that in the rearview mirror. Today, this felt like early months of the season, Konate. Osimhen ran this guy absolutely ragged. And sometimes he didn't even have to. Whenever he even got dragged into those wide positions against either Yilmaz or Noah Lang, looked uncomfortable. I look at the second goal. Liverpool caught absolute life there. Absolute life. That should be 2-0. Game, set, and match. There were other opportunities as well, too. I mean, the first 5 minutes of the game, I actually thought it was going to be really difficult for Galatasaray because the amount of times they just kept losing the ball in their own half. And Liverpool, almost playing in Galatasaray's box at times, had so many opportunities to just put the ball in the back of the net. I really feared for Gala in the first 5 minutes. But once they got past those early hiccups, Gala were the side that looked like they were on the upper hand. They grabbed their goal off a corner. Osimhen with the first header and Mario Lemina on job to finish it off and give them that 1-0 lead. But even past that, it always felt like Gala were millimeters away from grabbing a second goal. I think 1-0 is actually a really good result for Liverpool based on the performance because they could have very well been out of sight in this game. This tie could have been over after one leg. And now it goes back to Anfield where Liverpool just needs to beat them by more than one goal. As bad as Liverpool have been this year, Galatasaray is a different side away from home. And I expect Liverpool to make up the deficit. But again, similar to how I talked about Barcelona, alarm bells are ringing for this Liverpool team, man. These are red flags that we're watching. And I know Barca and Liverpool, in terms of names of clubs, are ones that you expect, oh, you can't write them off. And I get that. But sometimes, especially in, what are we? March, the middle of March, if a team is showing you who they are, time and time and time again, I'm a big believer that you got to believe them at some point. If a team continues to show you who they are, without fail, at some point, if you refuse to believe them, you're the only sucker here. I've seen enough of Liverpool this season to know this team is not winning the Champions League. If they even get past the quarterfinals, I think they've done extremely well. But let's see. Let's see. I think today, really, really bad performance from them. Congratulations to Galatasaray. Congratulations to Bayern. Congratulations to Atletico Madrid. And I guess congratulations to Barca, because the fact that they're going back to Barcelona without losing is a huge congratulations. They've caught life. But that's the first day of Champions League football. Tomorrow, I still got the championship table up on my screen. But tomorrow, we are set for another day of blockbuster football. Leverkusen, Arsenal. I mean, look, I'll give Leverkusen some respect, but I expect Arsenal to win tomorrow. But PSG, Chelsea, a rematch of the Club World Cup final. And then everybody's favorite non-English derby, Real Madrid versus Manchester City. These two games, I will have my eyes firmly on them. And hey, you can't forget about Bodo Glimt, who continue to make waves in this competition. Everything to play for. We will be back here tomorrow on the channel reviewing all of them and so much more. Guys, like, share, and subscribe. Leave your comments down in the comment section below, and I will see you guys for tomorrow's video. Peace.